The night was silent, heavy, almost suffocating. Alex sat on the edge of his bed, staring out the window. The city lights flickered in the distance, casting faint shadows on the walls of his small apartment. The air was filled with unspoken thoughts, and the silence pressed against his ears. The camera slowly zoomed in, drawing us into his quiet world. Suddenly, something made him look away. He turned his head toward the mirror hanging across the room. His own reflection looked strange. He leaned in closer, inspecting it. His eyes were dull, tired, but there was something else. It was as if his reflection was watching him longer than it should. He blinked and his heart skipped a beat. His reflection remained motionless for a fraction of a second longer than him. Tick. Tock. Tick. Time moved too slowly. The clock on the wall ticked louder than usual. Alex glanced at it, then shifted his gaze to the nightstand, where his fingers absent-mindedly tapped against the wooden surface. The only sound was the distant hum of the city night. It felt muffled, as if the world around him was pulling away. A sudden gust of wind rattled the window, making him flinch. He slowly reached for the curtain, pulling it aside, revealing the bleak cityscape. Neon lights pulsed in the distance like a silent alarm. He exhaled, his warm breath leaving a misty trace on the cold glass. Alex wiped it away with his palm. And for a split second, he thought he saw something shift in the reflection behind him. He turned abruptly. The room was empty. A single candle flickered on the table, casting trembling shadows across the walls. Alex sat beside it, his eyes fixated on a sealed envelope. The letter had been there for days, yet he couldn't bring himself to open it. His fingers traced the rough paper. Why couldn't he force himself to read those words? The candlelight wavered suddenly, then went out. Darkness. Alex stood up abruptly, his silhouette barely visible in the gloom. A distant creak. His breath hitched, his heart pounded in his chest. Was it just the wind? Or something else? Outside the window, the city carried on. Cars moved, voices echoed in the distance. But here in his room, time had frozen. Alex lifted a glass of water to his lips. His hands trembled. The ice inside clinked softly too loud. Too loud. He turned back to the mirror. But this time, he didn't look away. The reflection was no longer his own. Something smiled. The camera zoomed in. Closer. Even closer. His eyes in the mirror filled with something new. A flicker of realization. And then darkness.